Okay, welcome everyone to the summary of the final turn of 1941. These were the two cards that were in play, and actually the Germans benefited a lot from their card because the naval battle they conducted in the English Channel once again was actually pretty successful because of the naval bomber. Note that the even though the picture and perhaps the text seems to suggest otherwise, any area could be, well, not any area, it should be, of course, a sea area because it says clearly one naval battle. But it's other aircraft other than the naval bomber can also benefit from the +1 in bombing. Well, the Soviets, they would have had a 3-round battle had they used it. They actually did win the initiative, so note that, please. They actually didn't go onto the offensive yet. That is, they are preparing for it. They are now amassed along the German and southern borders. They did some normal moves to get there, and also in Finland they are threatening, along with their Finnish allies, they're threatening Sweden and Norway. Especially Sweden could really hurt the Germans because they have a resource there that's worth 2 points to them. So yeah, that's definitely something worth noting or noteworthy. Well, what else happened? The convoy was attacked. Initially, I actually made the mistake of playing as if it were a winter turn, but the last turn of a year, I actually knew that, but I still made that mistake, is only a winter turn in Russia and Finland, not in other areas. So I had to redo that battle, but the outcome was basically the same. It was protected by the aircraft carrier, but it regrouped because it won the battle. It actually eliminated a U-boat. So that wasn't a very successful one for the Germans. In the Channel it was. They actually inflicted pretty heavy casualties on the British. I believe they destroyed 2 cruisers, and I'm not talking of cruiser steps, but actually cruiser blocks. The naval bomber that I spoke of earlier did a very good job. It inflicted a lot of hits on the British. Actually, at the end of the battle, there was only 1 aircraft left and 2 U-boats and a German aircraft. But as there was still 1 unit left, I assumed the British were still the winners. And one question popped up, and I thought, like, can I actually, not that I wanted to, but could I leave this aircraft in the sea area, so it would prevent a possible German invasion on the next turn, which wouldn't be possible because that's a winter turn everywhere. But, had it been spring, would that have prevented an invasion? Well, since it's not really relevant now, it's not much of an issue, but it could come up at a different time. And, I ruled, based on what the rules say, that the aircraft would have to retreat. Also on logic, obviously. Well, not retreat, but, move back to a land area, because I don't suppose it could actually land at sea. Then again, I'm not entirely sure about that, so if anybody could help me with that, that would be great. Well, what else happened in Africa? The British 8th Army, basically took control of all of Libya. They used one of their 5 command points also to move additional forces to Libya, because they could then, well, not on the next turn because it's a winter turn everywhere, also in Africa. I know that lots of games make an exception for that in desert areas or North Africa or whatever you want to call it, those areas are not affected by winter weather, but in this game it is. It just says a winter turn everywhere, so I also assume here. Why did I move that unit here? Well, because Malta has a restriction that it can only hold 1 army unit, and since the fortress can't move, it won't be able to invade either. So an invasion from Malta, the way I read and understand things, is not possible. So I will have to do that from North Africa. So in this case, I moved it to Tobruk, because I only took Tripoli on the same turn, so I wouldn't have been able to strategically move a unit there. And I want this unit to move into Tunisia, possibly. It's probably Vichy France. So I don't know if I want to do that, but you know, I might just do that. Let's wait how things turn out. So that's what happened over there. What happened during the diplomacy phase? Well, you're seeing this right. Poland actually decided to join the Soviet Union. Maybe not entirely of their own free will, you know. I think they must have felt pretty intimidated by all the Soviet troops amassing at their borders. So they actually joined, and I believe the roll was a 9 and the 10 was required, but because of the proximity rule, yeah, well, they actually, a 9 was enough, and they joined the Soviet cause. So now the Germans are in very, very, very big trouble. They built some additional units, including a fortress unit in Berlin, but you can more or less make out the strength of the units in Berlin. There's one strong unit, strength 4 and D3, but yeah, this is a terrible problem for the Germans, obviously. So it looks as if the game might be finished pretty soon. But we'll see how that turns out. The ally, I believe the Germans tried to roll for Sweden, hoping that that would make any difference. But the Swedes declined. That's basically what happened. The Americans built some additional forces, factories, as well as built up some units. The convoy, the resource convoy, is now at strength 4. So, yeah. Those are the main things that happened. And next turn, well, not next turn, but in the spring of 1942, I guess we can expect an invasion of the Italian mainland, or, well, not the mainland, because that is not possible at this moment, but an invasion of Sicily is already possible. Germans actually used their final command to move an army unit into Italy, but well, as I said, Berlin is of course terribly frightening. They were hoping to use Poland as a buffer against the Soviets, and you know, it would have stopped them, but it might have delayed them a little bit. But now, rather than that happening, the Poles again decided to join the Soviets. So, as I said, I expect the game to be over pretty soon, but I'll just continue until the very end. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed.